Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Alexis. Today I felt like sharing some books I'm hoping to get to sometime this fall. Really, fall doesn't start till maybe I think the third week of September, but starting a little bit early because I'm just in the mood for something that's going to shock me, hopefully something that's going to thrill me, maybe inspire me and induce tears. But lately, I've been finding it really difficult for me to continue reading the same books. In terms of the romance genre, I haven't been as inspired or excited for the certain types of books that I've been picking up. Aside from Guaranteed Happily Ever After, I just want something that's going to have more twists and turns in the story. So I'm going to be trying thrillers for the first time. And that is for a fact going to happen because one of my friends did in fact start a book club. So I believe there's about 5 of us in our little group, and we've been doing it for a couple of months now, and we're starting to do some thrillers. So previously we've done romance, we did tap into some fantasy as well, but this go around we went with a thriller. So that's going to be the first one I talk about, and it is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it. I probably could have checked myself before filming this, but it is what it is. I did, in fact, obtain this from my local library, so I'm excited to save money on that front. But essentially, this is supposed to follow Alicia, who is a famous painter married to an in-demand fashion photographer. But, one day she ends up shooting him 5 times in the face and she goes silent, hence the silent patient. And this is supposed to follow her story with a psychotherapist named Theo, who is very captivated by her case and the fallout and just trying to understand why she went quiet and why she did what she did, because no answers were provided. And of course, everything surrounding it has a lot of publicity and suspicion. So that's, I believe, the reason why we picked this. I voted for it of the picks that we selected, but I'll also be sharing my suggestion later in this video. But before I get to that, I'm going to show the other library books that I got this time. Okay, so The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager is also related to, it seems, Casey Fletcher is a widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press. So she retreats to a private location across from a couple that is across the lake. She appears to befriend the wife, it sounds like, and it turns out their marriage is not so happy. So trying to see what unfolds there. Again, I did hear a little bit more about this from other booktubers. So yeah, and any thrillers that I'm finding honestly were mentioned in said videos that I was looking for recommendations. So if you are interested in exploring other books in thrillers or mystery thrillers, I'll link them down below. The videos I came across and were inspired by, I definitely have a lot more books on my TBR. So yeah, but I'm not going to mention all of them in this one video because, again, I haven't read them yet and I don't really want to just be spewing out a bunch of books that I'm not too sure about myself, but these ones are coming up as a priority to me. Another author I've been hearing about is Frida McFadden. This book that I picked from her backlist, Do Not Disturb, was something that I selected again for the book club with my friends, but it was outvoted, including myself. I ended up picking The Silent Patient, but this I still want to get to in my own time. So Do Not Disturb is supposed to follow a person who committed a crime and is on the run, but then she retreats to this hotel. And at first, I guess it seems interesting, but she has to survive the night due to mysterious things around it. So that's about all I know. And I did test the first couple of chapters and I did like the writing style. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue with that at some point. This next book that I have on my TBR is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. The bit I know about this is essentially the main character wrote a bad review about an author's book, and the author was telling them to take it down, but they refused. So the author ends up stalking the reviewer because of that. And again, I'm curious, so I plan on getting to this sometime. All the Sinners Bleed. This next book, All the Sinners Bleed, is by S.A. Cosby or Sean A. Cosby. I've also seen that listed. But essentially, this is supposed to follow I believe, a black sheriff or a black man in law enforcement. I know that much. But something happens with a school shooting and the shooter ends up being taken down, but it turns out there's a lot more surrounding like corruption within the small town and surely prejudice as well. So I've been hearing a lot about this author, and even my favorite author, if you've been around, Kennedy Ryan, she sings high praises as well of S.A. Cosby's books. So I ended up picking this one because also booktubers were raving about it. And yeah, the cover itself is giving me, again, thriller and suspense vibes. I'm not sure when it actually takes place, but that's just my impression of it. So that's why I decided to pick this and see how close it hits to home. Because, again, country you're living in, seeing how people have different values and different priorities. I'm curious how that is going to be approached in this because, again, I'm very new to the thriller genre. I would even argue and say that I've only ever read one mystery thriller type of book, which was by Agatha Christie back when I was in school. And then there were none. It was previously titled 10 Little Indians. But it was renamed afterwards. So yeah, I'm just very excited to read about this book and go from there. Now, this next book is an author I did attempt to read in the past, but who knows, maybe I've evolved because, again, it is a different genre, and this is by Alicia Cole, When No One Is Watching. This is supposed to tackle gentrification, and if I recall correctly, one of the residents people is noticing that a lot of Black residents are moving out and white people are moving in. And there's suspicion around it. Again, I don't know how, so because I didn't read it yet. But I did previously try a historical romance by this author that I just couldn't get into. So I'm not going to mention it much further here. But again, this was praised in another booktuber's videos, so maybe it's time I give it a shot. It's already been out a couple years, I think, already. So it's had its time to simmer, so I'm going to move on. For general fiction, I got The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. So here it is. I got it from my library. I know vaguely it's supposed to follow a child. So yeah, Piccola, who is a Black girl in America and has love for blonde and blue-eyed children. So basically wanting what she is not. And I think this comes down to, again, self-reflection and, you know, the beauty standards that exist in a country that doesn't value you. So yeah, Nobel Prize in literature, sure. Again, this is an author I've heard a lot about, and I know it tends to come up as required reading as well for school. Unfortunately for me, it was not picked throughout my schooling, so I knew I wanted to get around to it at some point, and I noticed it was on my library shelves. I initially came for the thrillers, but then I also left with this as well. So I'm okay with that, and I hope to get to it very soon because, again, I only have so much time to borrow it from the library, and that's more of an incentive to pick these up for me. Another book I'm hoping to get to, I believe is considered more general fiction, but may lean toward the mystery element, would be After Oz by Gordon McAlpin or McAlpine. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce. But this is supposed to be inspired, of course, by the Wizard of Oz story and following the story of Dorothy and her friends. That's the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion. But in this story, it seems the child goes missing from a farm, and when she is found or returned in some way, she gets her way back home. She ends up raving about her adventures, and when it turns out she raved about unaliving a witch, and it turns out a local person who has similar traits is found unalived. They suspect something more mysterious, more eerie is going on. So After Oz is something that may or may not hit for me because I've never really been attached to the original Wizard of Oz. If anything, it creeped me out, especially with the Wicked Witch of the West and the makeup. Even the Tin Man creeped me out. The Scarecrow creeped me out. The Lion, not so much, surprisingly. But yeah, just overall, the Little Munchkins. I couldn't really get into that movie growing up, and even now, I don't think I've ever finished it completely, although I understand the gist of it. I've just never seen it all in one sitting. Another book I believe falls under general fiction would be Riffs and Refrains by Tai. This is a book that apparently, again, my favorite author has been talking about because it is not only an audiobook first, but it is going to be made into I believe a series or a movie, something like that, and my favorite author is going to be one of the producers. We're already hearing more information about that, and of course my favorite authors backlist that is also being produced as a Peacock show eventually, which I guess we'll hear more about in the coming months. But yeah, Riffs and Refrains, other than the fact that my favorite author has been promoting it and talking about the project and looking forward to the production of it, I don't know really anything about this other than it's about music and it seems to be country music specifically from the cover. So, yeah. So, of course, supporting Black voices is very important. And I haven't really dove much into general fiction, and I assume that's what this is based on what little I know, but I could be entirely wrong. Either way, I plan on trying it sometime soon. Of course, on my TBR, I have to still talk about some romances I'm hoping to get to, but again, I haven't been gravitating to them as much as I usually do. It could just be because of my current situation. I just haven't been feeling as inspired or as hopeful, unfortunately, because of things going on personally. But these are some that I'm still hoping to get to. So, Reckless by Elsie Silver is within the Chestnut Springs series. I am hoping to finish this. I've already started it, but it's supposed to be a surprise and secret baby. So I don't typically like that trope. I don't like secrets. I am not a fan of the miscommunication or choosing to omit things. I just not a fan of it. And plus, this is supposed to follow one of the characters I didn't like in previous books and her love interest, who was also introduced in previous books. But yeah, I'll update later once that is done. Next book I got is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I did, in fact, get this from Pango Books. I had some Pango Bucks that I wanted to use, so I ended up picking this copy of Love Redesigned. Other than the fact that I know it's supposed to follow a character who was a minor character in another series. I yeah, I don't recall too much more than that. I think it's supposed to be a second chance. Could be wrong. Not going to really look into it any further because I don't want to spoil it for myself. And I feel like that's another thing I've been feeling around romance community. Some people just oversharing and turns into spoilers, and then it just doesn't make me or inspire me to read it because I feel like it's already been revealed to me too soon. So yeah, Julian and uh, Delilah, I assume that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, pretty cover. I know the second book in this series is out as well. But yes, this is book one in this new series, and I'll get to it hopefully sooner rather than later. I am noticing it is a very thick book though. This is over 500 pages. So whenever that happens, but fall is still a longer period of time. But before you know it, time flies. So next, I definitely want to listen to the audiobook of The Many Sins of Lord Cameron by Jennifer Ashley. This is book 3 in a series. I did enjoy the first 2 books. However, I did re-listen to them recently because it had been a while since I read the first and the second book, and I did want it fresh in my mind to move forward with the series. So this is supposed to follow Lord Cameron, who is single father, and his love interest is Ainsley, I believe, who is a female character who is friends with the female character of book 2. But again, this is book 3. Cameron is a single father. It seems he does have rakish ways, and then he gets involved with Ainsley. Just know I want to continue the series, and I have quite a few books in that series. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Historical romance, of course. Moving on to The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I've been seeing this cover all over, and there's no other way to feel about it than autumn because of, again, the cover. If you're not thinking of Thanksgiving, if you're not thinking of pumpkins, if you're not thinking of leaves falling from the cover, I don't know what else you would possibly feel. Now, just from the synopsis on Goodreads, it does mention it's a spicy small town romance. I have been leaning away from small town romances, but Elsie Silver is also small town, so I am interested enough in this because of the cover. This is supposed to follow Ginny and Logan. So Ginny's aunt gifts her with a beloved cafe in the small town of Dream Harbor. Dream Harbor is the series, and this is book 1 in the series. Jeannie jumps at the chance for a fresh start away from her very dull desk job. Logan is a local farmer who avoids Dream Harbor's gossip at all costs, but Jeannie's arrival disrupts Logan's routine, and he wants nothing to do with the irritatingly upbeat new girl, except that he finds himself inexplicably drawn to her. This has a little bit of mystery in it. It's supposed to be Grumpy Sunshine, found family, spicy. Spice scale varies for people, so I'm not too sure about that. When I get to this, hopefully again soon, and I'll try it out for myself. Another book that is giving me fall vibes just because of the cover, and I'm not sure if that is really the case, if it's supposed to take place in autumn or not, but this book, Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. This book is supposed to be within the romance genre, contemporary as well. It's listed as adult and new adult. I don't know too much more than that, other than knowing it's been picked for book clubs. It seems to center around a young Black British woman who has no interest in love and unexpectedly finds herself caught up in a fake relationship with the man she warned her girls about. This sounds like there's going to be some drama, and I'm okay with that because, again, it's adding seasoning to the mix. My palate has been too plain, too bare, too unseasoned the past however many months. So, honey and spice is what I need. The last book that I want to mention, and I'm hoping to get to this fall, but again, I'm not too pressed because it's really a reread, would be Real by Kennedy Ryan. This is my favorite author. This is, in fact, the first book I read by her. And I'll be honest, I gave this 4 stars the first time I read it, but the fact that I even want to return to it and I think about it more regularly, I think I misjudged it the first time. But it's okay, so that's why I'm going to reread it again and see if it gives me the same feelings that I have been feeling since, regardless of my first impressions, because it's just grown on me. But this book is age gap romance. It's Black love. It's between actress and her director, so it's a little bit forbidden in that way. Has chronic illness representation. I believe the female lead has fibromyalgia. Does mention betrayal in terms of relationship from a previous relationship. So just learning to trust each other and build that trust and understanding, support system. Mention loss of loved one in here as well. Some estrangement with family because of incidences. So yeah, I think about this book more often than I initially thought I would, which is why I first gave it 4 stars out of 5. But now that it's been, a long time and I've had it simmer and it's the first book I've read by this author, it left an impression on me. And this was her love letter to Black creatives. It even has the mention of the work that they're doing is supposed to be a biopic about a fictitious jazz musician or jazz singer who did not get the recognition that she deserved. So this is Cannon's character, his way of paying tribute to her and her legacy. And then Neva is the actress he chooses to portray the leading lady of that biopic. So beautiful story, and it's been talked about so much. It's in fact being re-released as well in November. That's another reason why I want to reread it, because I know that there's supposed to be way more bonus content at the end, and I want the entire story to be fresh in my brain before I get to that bonus section with 7,000 more words, apparently, according to my author's post. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know any books that you are hoping to get to sometime this fall, or if any of these are on your TBR list as well. But again, my name's Alexis, and until next time, take care and happy reading.